Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
And welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for a radio audience here in Mississippi, WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all could be with us. Also, tuning in to our friends at iHeartRadio and the Amazon Music Podcast. We're glad you all could be with us as well. Well, as we've been celebrating during the month of March some amazing women, I also want to be able to celebrate some amazing characters as well. One of them is found in a new book I had a chance to read called Girl on Fire, written by Alicia Keys and co-authored by Andrew Weiner. Andrew is joining us today to talk to us not only about the book, but also the messages that's in Girl on Fire, as well as his own literary journey as well. If you guys are just finding out about the book, we'll let you know how to get your own copy and stay connected with Andrew. Andrew, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me. So,
Andrew, I want to first of all talk about the success of the book. I mean, of course, we've been seeing it everywhere. Literally, my friends in New York have sent me pictures of even it being featured on billboards. I mean, what has it been like for you to see the way that people are responding to Girl on Fire?
I mean, it's kind of surreal. It's amazing, and it's all credit to Alicia Keys, my co-author. And like what she can move mountains, and it's just because she sort of has this amazing ability to visualize something and make it happen. And with this book, she made it happen. It took us a long time. You know, making a graphic novel is a really slow process, and it has to be a labor of love because there's a lot of labor in it.
Right.
But she had this vision, and here we are talking.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into the layers of Lolo, the main character, as well as, of course, how the story kind of unfolds in a minute. I want to talk about your own journey, though, as a storyteller, because I know even outside of this, I mean, storytelling is something that you're passionate about. Have you always known in some form or fashion, Andrew, that writing was going to be a part of your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe I lacked the imagination to picture doing something else. So, I mean, my background is in film, which includes screenwriting, producing. I came up working for production companies and film studios, and then I transitioned into, real filmmaking, producing movies, also writing and directing. And then, I had this love for graphic novels, and it's something same thing with producing movies. It was something I really wanted to do for a long time, but I was working at studios. I was earning a living, learning about the craft, and then it just took a little while before I sort of made that leap and said, this is something that you want to do. You want to make movies. Just, find a way, figure it out, do it. And I think the same thing happens with graphic novels. I had this voice in my head saying you should be writing some. And I finally listened to the voice, and so incorporated that as a primary activity of mine, which is writing graphic novels, creating graphic novels.
Yeah, and I think not only creating these novels, Andrew, but a novel like Girl on Fire. The thing is, it also has this amazing storyline. So let's get into that. You talked about it being a labor of love. For those who haven't read Girl on Fire, of course, we're not going to tell them everything. But as I mentioned, the main character is one that we get to know, Lolo Wright, someone who might seem pretty ordinary, definitely relatable, but she has quite the journey on her, and not just outside of what the cover alludes to, which is her having this form of power. But also, what I love about the story, Andrew, is how she kind of discovers her power in other ways. So what was it like for you to kind of, come up with the idea for this?
By the way, thank you for speaking flatteringly of the project and of Lolo, who's sort of and I think when you're writing something and working on something, I'd say this also speaks for the illustrator, Britt Williams, who's just fantastic. These characters, to draw them, to write them, to create them, they have to become real. You walk around and have conversations in your head with these characters, and so for this project with Alicia, we were introduced. I met her film producing partner, and we hit it off. We were introduced by a friend, and her then film producing partner thought that Alicia and I would make for a good partnership for creating a graphic novel. And so we all hit it off, and then we spent a lot of time just kind of like talking. I think just getting to know each other in terms of creatively, thinking, try to figure out what ideas resonated. And then her song, Girl on Fire, which is just like, it's one of my favorite songs, like sort of became like this North Star. So it's not like a direct translation, as Alicia says, like a song, when you're writing a song, it's like, it's 3 minutes. Sometimes it's just a thought. It's an idea that you put forward. And so it's not like, a 3-act structured story, but it's sort of like just like the kind of like what that song means and feels, like that vibe, like that sense of yearning and belief in yourself, and desire to do something that's kind of like Lolo's spirit. And then the story, it just sprung from there.
Did you find, Andrew, in writing a book that is so layered, and we're going to get into some of the layers, one of the ones I really like is the family side, but also Lolo even understanding and appreciating herself, which I think goes perfectly with the song Girl on Fire. I mean, what was that like for you all to play off of each other, for Alicia and you to play off of each other about, how difficult you were going to make her life, because really, you all didn't spare her a whole lot. I mean, she is not one of these characters, just to let our audience know if you haven't read the book. Everything is not peachy keen for her. She goes through her challenges at home, just in life, and kind of maneuvering right and wrong. What was that like for you to kind of come up with that concept of and how her journey would progress?
Well, I think I'll speak partially for myself, but also for Alicia. And I think our understanding of the character, I think, is a little bit more innate to Alicia, because we're talking about a girl, like, she's around 15 years old, from Brooklyn housing projects. I've never been a 15-year-old girl, so it's not, and I don't think I ever will be, Cyrus.
Right.
Unless there's like I don't know, unless we can get some infinity stones and do something weird. So a lot of it, honestly, like Alicia, Lewis, who was working with Alicia, they guided me on a lot of my end of the writing. But also just to, like, I think with all characters, as a writer, if I don't know, like I think of like Quentin Tarantino, who's an amazing filmmaker. Occasionally, his characters to me feel like Quentin Tarantino bobbleheads, like when it's a little bit like, maybe not his best films, but then some of his movies are just absolutely extraordinary or mind-blowing. But for me, it means like research. It means researching. So her family, she's Brooklyn Housing Project. I grew up in Washington, D.C., in a different time, different place from Lolo. So it meant having to understand, like, what that's like. So it meant spending time in housing projects and conducting some interviews, and so that we got it right.
Right.
And so the research was obviously incredibly informative, and it was also pretty, like for me, it was an amazing experience. This is just some of the people I met were just such incredible, inspiring people.
Right.
So that was an unexpected benefit. Just I didn't go in thinking now I'm going to research, but it became obvious that as we talked about the story, to make sure we were, not just like fabricating things out of thin air. Right. So it was really, that part was amazing.
And now, of course, we get to enjoy it. I want to say for those who are just tuning in, either on the radio side or online, you're listening to Conversations Live. We're excited to welcome Andrew Weiner to our program today. He's one of the co-authors of the new book out this year, Girl on Fire, with Alicia Keys. And we're going to remind you how you can get your own copy of the book and also stay connected with Andrew. Andrew, one other aspect of Lolo's journey I want to talk about is something that I'm always try to be aware of. I was brought up this way, and I think we try to help our audience understand that all of us are somebody, right? And we all have a responsibility the way we show up. I think even though Lolo doesn't have, the best of circumstances all the time, she realizes the importance of showing up and what that looks like. What was that like for you to share through this character, but also to think about for yourself, the way that you show up in the world?
That's a great question. I think I may not answer that, but we'll see. But I think a lot of that speaks to exactly what is important to Alicia in terms of what this story is about, and for me as well. But for her, in some ways, the superpowers are an allegory, and I think a lot of these superhero stories are. But it's for her, it's about finding that inner confidence, and she's coming of age. So sort of when you're a kid, a lot of these lessons, it's sort of theoretical, and then as you get older, you're put to the test, and she's put to the test. And this is something that I think about and reflect on in my past life, where you think about and a lot of times these tests are unexpected. You find yourself in a really dangerous situation that generally those things don't happen. You don't see it coming a mile away. You're walking down the street and then something happens and then you have to act. Something happens to somebody else. Do you get involved? And so I think for Lolo, it's about her drawing from her own experiences, the lessons she's learned. She's raised by a single father and a grandmother, and she has an older brother, and drawing on basically the values she's learned, and then also just finding that courage. And that courage, sometimes it's whether it's standing up to a bully or seeing somebody do something that isn't right. Do you stay quiet or do you step in? And those are the things that Lolo's faced with, and those are things that if you live long enough, everybody's faced with those tough decisions here or there. And I always feel you generally know the right decision because it's the harder choice. When faced with two things, the harder choice is usually the right way to go. Right. And there's a reason why it's hard.
And one thing we see, Andrew, I think you'll agree with Lolo, is that it's not like she's using it to benefit herself, right? I mean, it is in service of others, whether we're talking about family or just, again, doing what is right. So let me ask you this question then, a more direct, personal question. Has it been easy for you in this journey as a storyteller, doing what you love, to trust your own voice, to trust that you have something that needs to be said and needs to be heard?
I haven't thought. It's an interesting question. I haven't thought about it. I sort of feel with Alicia, representation is so important, and so it's really thinking about that. I feel like this book is important for a lot of people. It means something to a lot of people. And so that feels, and I think that is more important than my voice or whatever. And I'm really just servicing the story, working with Alicia, trying to, the two of us. And when I say just the two of us, there's a whole team. There's the art team, which is half of the battle, perhaps more if you talk to my editors. But there's a whole team, making this project. So I'm really just kind of in service as a writer, in service to the story, in service to the characters, and then also just, probably, leaning on Alicia to some extent and her vision, which is just, I didn't know what it would be like working with her going in because I didn't know her prior, other than, her public persona, and there's a lot of information there. She's an incredible musician. But she's really She's a really brilliant writer. And then the other thing I was unsure of is her visual instincts are really impressive. So she was like really detail focused in reviewing the art, and there's certain areas where we just went through several iterations, and sometimes whether it's the manuscript and the writing process or evaluating the art, like for example, like Lolo's hair, we spent a lot of time on that. I mean, not me personally, like Lolo's hair is going to look however it's drawn as far as I'm concerned. That's not an area where I'm going to get involved in. But for Alicia, it's like that, the way Lolo looks, the style of the hair says so much about her. And so she wanted to make sure that it was just nailed. And so it was.
Yeah. Well, it's an amazing story, Andrew. The two of you should definitely, I mean, as I know you are, be proud of it, because I think for all ages there's so many different things for readers to take in. And I did. I've already written my review on Amazon. Invite our audience, if you guys have already read the book, definitely make sure you guys go over to Amazon, share your thoughts there with others, let them know what you're thinking about it. But also, if you don't have the book already, it is available on Amazon or your favorite local bookstore. If they don't have it, I know they'd be more than happy to order it for you. Again, Girl on Fire is the book. Alicia Keys and Andrew Weiner are the authors of the book. As you heard him say, Brittany Williams illustrated it. It's a fascinating story. It's entertaining, but also very inspiring as well. And Andrew, really appreciate the time today. How can our audience stay connected with you?
They could find me on social, on Twitter, Instagram. My company is Interstation, and there's handles for that. And then also for me, I don't know what they are off the top of my head. But I'm findable. So reach out, say hi. I'll say hi back. And I hope people enjoy the book. That was the one thing with Alicia that was another, besides the song, driving everything is, let's make this fun, Alicia said. Let's make this fun. Everything else will be taken care of, but let's make this a ride for people to enjoy. And I hope people do. I think they will if they give it a shot.
I totally agree. Andrew, really appreciate the time. I know it's a crazy busy time for you guys. Really appreciate you stopping by, and looking forward to having you back on the program again.
Me too. Thank you, Cyrus. Thanks for having me.
Okay, glad to do it. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Now let's go make today amazing. Take care.